Cheers. It is heavenly tea time. I'm doing a lot of videos at the moment because I'm doing lots of things investigating. Last night, there is an entire vocal recording of an investigation into my parents. Why did I choose you? Because they're very, very different from me. They all went into the kind of vaccination range of existence, shall we say. We've always been very distant anyway, for lots of reasons. But it was an interesting thing to ask. And I just knew I had to do something. Sometimes I'll use an angel card, which will tell me something to look at. And it was to do with my parents. So I went to do the investigation. When I woke up this morning, the first thing that came as a result of my dream was, because of what I'd done in the night, the investigation with my parents, I had allowed something to come up out of my deep, out through the cells. Very often it seems that our energy, thought forms, belief systems, and compressed energy systems go into our cells, into this physical body, the much denser body than the etheric or the pure spirit body. And if you activate something and release something, I actually released my parents from my sphere, from my energy field entirely, because we're so completely different. I don't have any attachment to them. And as a result, I then this morning released myself from all of the negative expectations that had been induced in me through being the daughter of my father. So the way he had behaved as the father to me, because that's how he was trained by the world around him, was basically I could not expect anything from him. So if I asked him for something, it was denied. If I wanted to do something, it was denied. So my brother could ask, can I go skiing? If he got a thing from school, and somehow they found a way. If I did, no. So all of my requests were denied. So I was taught through that to stop expecting something wonderful to happen. Love was denied. Time was denied. Working together was denied. So you can see how that would bring in to the mental body as you grow into the world a system of patterning. So you go and you talk to a man or someone in a position of authority. It doesn't matter, it could be female. You present something wonderful, and because you don't realize how deep that expectational field is in you, you're actually expecting them to say no. And that's what happened time and time again. Oh my God, the number of beautiful documents I prepared, speeches, conversations to sell some brilliant, to present some wonderful idea. And no, because of that, I was carrying with me a field that would say, here you are, I'm expecting you to just reject me. So this morning, I'm going to see if I can repeat roughly what I said, because it was very powerful and it could be very useful, because a lot of us have these things and we don't realize how deep they were. I could feel after I said it, the kind of tingling sensation of energy moving in my physical body. And I've had this before in different ways, and I'm sure you have too. Literally, it feels like it's sort of coming up, out, and then out to the etheric level and then off. And I sent it off into source recycling bin. So let's see if I can just do this. And then after this little introduction, you can go in and see the work I did last night. I command my spirit to now take every single expectation that I had of negative reception that I developed as the result of being my father's daughter. And I now release that entirely. I command my spirit to release from every part of my physical body, my energetic bodies, my spiritual body, any negative expectations, any expectations of things not working, people I love not hearing me, not speaking to me, not responding to me. I now release all of that. I allow it. I allow myself to feel it come up and through me and out through every pore of my existence. So that now I ask one more time, I command my spirit to identify, to find, to collect every single negative expectation I created as a child as a result of being my father's daughter, having every request denied, moments of time and attention and love missing. All of that negative expectational field I now collect, and once it's all collected, I remove, release, and send it back into source energy. My system is now clean, free, and clear of negative expectations. I now expect when I say something I wish to be with, there is a higher chance that I will be able to be with. When I say I wish to be heard, there is a higher chance I will be heard. When I wish to be seen, when I wish to present an idea, when I present my ideas to the world so that I may receive reciprocal energy back in the form of monetary pay, that is now eased. That is now eased. That is now eased as I have released all of the negative expectations that I had gathered from being the daughter of my father. Every time he said no, and I built some energy, disappointment, resentment, disappointment first, sadness, bewilderment, these energies, sad ones for a child. All of those energies from every moment of rejection, every moment of ignoring, every moment of breaking a promise to me, every single moment where what I wished to happen did not happen. All of those feelings, the emotional reaction from me, which formed an energetic imprint, every single particle of that now collected, rejected. And I'm almost seeing it like a present now, sent back as an energetic packet back into source energy. Here, let's do the open a portal. I haven't done that for a while, like a zip. Out. My energy body is now much freer, much clearer, much cleaner. Let's do one more. Whenever I suggested something with my mother and she denied it, ridiculed it, put it down, ignored it, made it seem ridiculous, the energy reaction to that I now collect. Whenever my mother rejected, denied, declared me ridiculous or ignorant or stupid, invalid, all of that I now collect, all of the energetic reaction that I had against that, which will have been, of course, bewilderment, shock, stun, surprise, dismay, disappointment, resentment, anger, hatred, all of these energies that I ever collected from any time she rejected me, she belittled me, she diminished me, any time she made me be the ridiculous one, any time she ignored me or made it appear that my ideas were worthless and therefore I was worthless, all of my energetic, emotional reaction to that, every single drop, prime creation, remove that from my system. Remove the rejection, the negative expectational fields I created with my father. Remove this sense of worthlessness created by my mother's interaction. Every single one of those lower level energies and my emotional reaction to it. If there are any remnants in any of my system, in any of my body, in my heart, in my spirit, in my etheric, Prime Creator, I command you, collect these, remove these. I will count down from 10 and breathe every single last piece of it out. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, thank you. So enjoy the rest of the video with the sound of the work I did last night. And I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Here I am in my storeroom, and I have called up two things, two images, one of my father and one of my mother. Painting of each on a board, almost human height. I'm basically trying to go to sleep in my bed, but I'm working on something. So here I am. So this board, it looks a little bit like the Egyptian hieroglyphs when they use that rounded rectangular frame to put a glyph in. And inside is doesn't even really look like a portrait, but it's supposed to be a portrait of my mother and my father, one in each. It's more like an absence plate, or whatever that means, like a portrait of what isn't there. Interesting. It's like holes of a person rather than a person. That's interesting. All right, let's do something. I just don't feel any relationship to my father or mother. It's just empty. There's a nothing. It's just a nothing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to summon their spirit, each of them, into the presence. After all, I did choose to come through them. That's going to be interesting. So the question is, why did I choose to come through them? I feel it's almost like it was a convenience, to be honest. So here we go. Prime creation, prime creator. I summon into my presence, into my soul room, my etheric space, my father's spirit, his soul, and my mother's spirit, her soul. And although I know they may come from far away for this journey, for most of it is not present fully in their human bodies, but prime creation, prime creator, I summon my father's soul, I summon my mother's soul to meet and speak with me in my soul room. So what I have done, which is a very interesting thing that I've never done before. So you know, those of you who listen to my work, that my soul room is a circular space. It is generally has an amphitheater in the center. Sometimes I wander off and find other rooms. I haven't been there for a while, but right now what I did sometimes the decoration is interesting. The details of decoration are interesting. So I literally just put up a curved screen, like a glass screen, between myself and the spirits of my father and my mother. For some reason, I believe that that's a good thing to do, because I don't really want them in my soul space. So I'm finding it quite fascinating that I put up this glass screen, and it's as I said, it's curved so it can fit into my amphitheater, but it has a rather beautiful, it's almost like an Art Deco wood frame around that, holding it, so you can move it and stand it there straight. And of course, air and energy can move around the edges, but it's literally like you would have a lead protection if you're going to have an X-ray. It's that kind of thing, which is interesting. So I am going to ask first my spirit. I am going to summon my entire spirit into my presence and then have a discussion with my spirit as to why I chose them to be my parents. And I've never really asked that question specifically in that way before. I command my spirit to gather fully here in this space, right here and right now, all of myself. I command prime creator, prime creation, give me all of myself now, and all parts of me who are existing simultaneously in other places. Currently, I command you to be here and now in my space with my mind, and I will now pose the question to me, to my spirit, all my incarnations. Why then did I choose to use these two people as my parents? So one person, it's me, of course, but I step forward and I have an ankh necklace. We have an Egyptian theme and a white dress. And I step forward and there is a book.
and I'm going to place it onto a lectern, and I am now going to read from this book. Thank you. So these are my choices to decide to use these as my parents. Sounds very cold and calculated, doesn't it? But guys, you probably don't realize the trauma that I had in the past with my parents. So a neutral stance like this, a complete detachment, is far healthier than anything else. I command my spirit to read this book, to explain and answer the question of why I chose this father and this mother as my parents. On the count of 5 to 0, I will then read the book. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 now. There was always a possibility of other people. You were calculating to a last minute schedule. You wanted to get in at this time. The birth time was important to you. That was important. And you had to work out the probabilities of how that could work. Why was the birth time important? That is another question, but you can answer it yourself quite briefly. If you were born on the last minute of the shortest day of the year, you wish to give yourself a symbol from dark to light. That was an evident thing, that you would be a bright, shiny being, essence, within the darkest moment, the darkest night of the year. It's quite obvious, and you felt you had to give yourself these signals. Now, I've felt that I've had to give myself these signals because of the environment I took myself into to be born into, that it was a very unconscious space with much that felt like it was, let's say, focused not against me, but against the tide of my being. So it was almost like a protection. So you would say that those two decisions would have come at the same time and not independent from each other. Or did I decide to be, okay, I wanted the number 6 as my birth number, all right. And I like that number, and I like the symmetry of the 2112, all right. So were really these the only people who were possible? There must be much more to this story, because of course what we have with my parents is a genetic line, and we have souls. Let us first look into the situation of the genetic line. I have to turn some pages for that. There were several old themes that were quite interesting. The Berkeley line of your mother and the Johnson line of your father, both Old English dragon lines, dragon family lines. So you had that reptilian base you could tap into to find out how they did things. It wasn't a very human base, it was much more reptilian base. The power mongers, the power strugglers, the ones who had power. For power is what you were going to have to understand if you were going to be or do anything, and you knew that you were not of that ilk, you were not the cold-blooded reptilian soul, but perhaps you needed to understand the power structure, have some sense of expectation of power. There are many human souls who are born into systems where there is always the underdog situation, the lower, lesser. Sweet, perhaps, mortal, but never with an expectation of authority, and you knew you needed to get to a place of authority if you were to spread and be what you are to be the world. So this was part of it, this nature of these aristocratic lines, fallen on harder times, yes, but still, of those older English, and let's look at the French capacity. Was that a part of the genetic makeup? Did I have any influence in the coming together of my parents? Was that in any way shaped through my system? No, that was their own line. What about the relative siblings? Not much connection, to be honest. A little bit, as you've always mentioned, a little bit more with your youngest sister, because your spirit called her into the family. You wanted her to have a chance to have that experience. That's why she came in. That was your connection calling her through. And then your brother, you just enjoyed him, you liked him. Although, of course, he was rather taken by the system. The matrix dominated old patriarchal system did rather work its patterning upon him. But you did have love for him. Well, you do. And these parents, let's see. Okay, I think, is there anything more to hear about the genetic lines? Okay, there's some sort of magician character. Who was the magician on which side? The mother's heritage. There were some magical lines of old knowledge which were embedded in the DNA. This sounds like I'm making this up now. Is this true or not? If it's true, it will be written in the book. And when I count down from 5 to 0, I will find it. We'll find something to back this up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 now. And I turn the page. There is a sparkle of ingenuity in this. Think of the stirring of the soup, the way you make your cuisine, your cooking. You make up these recipes all the time, don't you? Whereas others go and study books to read it, whereas you just make it up. You're kind of learning by imbibing. That is true of you, but what does that have to do with the magic? Some sort of vessel of, is it really truly the genetics? I'm asking right now. I'm seeing some sort of, the way that DNA is showed as a kind of a ladder situation, lattice laced up together. I'm seeing something like that, as though it was a framework that was useful in order to contain art, in order to contain my abilities. It was a framework which was useful in order to contain my abilities. And my abilities in this case are the ability to seek out information, to transfer across to it, and then to download it through into my DNA so that it's occupied, seated within my physical body, so that what might take some people years takes me just minutes because it's gone into my body system. So I needed a certain kind of genetic framework which was able to sustain that. Okay, interesting. All right. Is there anything more on the physical side of things to find out as to why they were my parents? What about the place of birth, the country of birth? Again, I'm getting dragon lines coming in. Are we talking about ley lines? Are we talking about draconian energy? What are we talking about with dragon lines? On the count of 3 to 0, I will receive more clarity on that. Actually, 5 to 0. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 now. The dragon lines are indicative of an ancient past to which you wish to connect. Think of the star charts surrounding the Earth. The dragon paths are the lines of internet connecting energy of the Earth, and you wish to pull up certain characteristics. This will enable you to bond into the nature. You may think that England is a sleeping place, indeed it is, however. There are layers of ancient quality. If you were to have been born in the United States, you would have found many clearances, different levels of clearance. The ancient quality is surprisingly embedded in the culture of the UK, United Kingdom, in these strange markings of ancient lanes and stone walls and corners. There is an entrapment of energy that you wish to experience in order to hold down some intelligence regarding the transition from the matrix to the natural system. There was something of that which you wish to achieve. I need more information. On the count of 5 to 0, I'll get more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 now. There is more in a book you will find presently, and you can add it in if you wish when you find this information. The Ashiana Dean information has something here too. All right, I'll leave it just for now because it feels a bit stuck, like I'm not flowing that information. So now I want to just pull back a bit and have a look now at the spiritual side of my parents. Does that have anything to do with me and my choice of them? So I command my spirit to reveal to me the information regarding my parents' signature, soul signature, as to why they might have been useful for me and appropriate for me to have chosen as my incarnating parents. The patterns they exhibited were interesting. The limitations, they had some kind of a correspondent with some of the things you wish to heal and resolve. The victimization was one of them, the ostracization and this sexuality difference, the gender difference, that the men were put first and the women second. That was something interesting to explore, for you knew that was a general symptom that needed to be remedied. The Muslim culture, what a strange thing. This now you're going back into the world. I was talking about the spiritual nature of my parents. Let us look at each one individually. So let me look at my mother first. Stone giant character, whatever that is. Stone giant. This was her origin template stuff, much more masculine than feminine. This spirit of you, what was the blessing of using you as my mother? Why did I choose to use you? I'm not getting anything clear yet. So let us just do something. I don't really want to make touch with these. I will touch etherically, just put my hand on the glass separating us, and ask spirit of the woman who was my mother, why did I choose you to be my mother? Just getting nothing. All right, let's do that same with my father. Why did I choose you as being my father? Wow, interesting. Just nothing. I command my spirit. I command prime creation. Give me the information, more information about my choice of parents, about how I feel and relate to my parents. Is there anything that needs to be revealed to me, to be released from me? Yes, release them entirely. All right, all right. I command my spirit, release entirely my mother from my entire energy system. On the count of 5 to 0, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I command my spirit to release entirely from my energy system any of the energy and presence of my father. And on the count of 5 to 0, I release him. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 now. I command my spirit to check every particle of my body, of my bodies, physical, etheric, mental, emotional, all these layers and levels of perception, to release from my spirit any connection to my birth mother, the mother who birthed me, and my father who fathered me with his sperm, my mother with her egg, and holding me in her womb and her body. Ah, now that becomes something much more human. So, thank you. I command my spirit to look at this moment where I was within her body as the baby. Interesting. So instantly what I got there was that I kept myself out of my body within her. I didn't enjoy being in her body while I was a baby in her womb. It was uncomfortable with memory and cramp, and I didn't enjoy the energy. So I just jumped in. In fact, I was often in and out of my body as a young child, not always in there because I had been used to not being always in there while being in the womb. I command my spirit reveal more information about this. This was a useful practice to allow me to develop the experience of obtaining information, the song, the singing of new songs that I always developed. I was always creating new songs, the child, making up the new songs. This ability to go beyond and without of my body was because I had practiced that while in the womb. A little reminiscent of the Philip Pullman with the demon being able to be separated in the case of Lyra, whereas normally it would be painful for people. Now let's just fast forward this. This is interesting. So the reason I did this investigation right now, tonight, about my parents is actually to do with my man. So with him, I had the experience of full merging over a distance of thousands of miles, and I loved it. And then I felt a great tearing pain when there was the no connection. Now, that would suggest that there was a quality that I wanted to have with my parents, perhaps, but missed. It's as though a part of my physical human incarnation is looking to have the experience of merging, the human physical merging that I didn't have with the aura of my mother or with my siblings. And so that complete merging was something that mentally I was longing for and had not had the experience. And when it came along with him, with my man, it was as though I was coming home to the spiritual way of being. I remember the Mary Summer Rain description of meeting another soul in the corridor of souls as she was describing it. And the description came home to me as very clearly resonant, where she described how spirits would greet each other and that they would literally pass through each other with a deliciousness, a profound deliciousness of full experience. Imagine the full electricity energy of one spirit passing through yours. And that is essentially what I felt with my man. So when that did not happen in that intensity, it was like a loss. So let's go back to this subject of my parents. Is there something I need to understand, reveal, release here? Some information I still need to bring back together in order to make sense of this situation. So most humans have real emotion with their parents and are very sad when their parents die. I will not be sad when my parents die. There is no closeness, there is no alignment. They're just spirits going on their path. They have their life, their choices, and then in that same way, their spirit will have determined they're leaving, and I won't feel anything. There will be no sense of loss. With my father, there will be a sense of gain because well, maybe, unless he's changed his will, which he might have, but I'm supposed to receive money from him on his transition. From my mother, nothing. There will just be her leaving. I mean, there will be my children's reaction to deal with. That's the truth of it. And maybe some petty family squabbles. I don't know, but I've kept really out of my family for so long that it would be hard to be dragged back in, to be honest. But that sense of family closeness was so strong for me with my man, and that's why the family idea was so heavy for me, so important. That experience of being fully human and to have a complete trust, 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 trust. So how do I define trust? I define trust as a holding and a being held, a simultaneous thing, to be the egg and the eggshell. That is the sense of trust. It is essentially what I'm being right now with my spirit, that here I am conducting an interview with my spirit on my own. And yet my spirit is multiple. It is multiple persons, incarnations. So there's always someone to speak to. And I am talking about the essence of these other people, the people who were my parents. So there's always that sense of self and other. There is that, and I can always use the idea of prime creation as other, even though I know I am of creator. This strange sort of, it's not a contradiction, it's just like a piece of grass, its roots are in the soil. So just as that, my roots are in source. There we go. And my parents were part of that nutrient system to bring my seed into a plant, as it were. Yeah. So what I'm saying to myself was that the strength and intensity of this experience with my man was that much more intensified because of the lack of true closeness, true harmonic resonance, convergence with my family, with my parents. And so when I found it with my man, it was the lights going on in crazy. And yet, of course, what I was also experiencing with him, and that's why it wasn't working, just why it's taken this long for things to come together, is because he has lots of stuff going on and I had things to move through and process. So I was experiencing in our merging some of his pains, some of his struggles and battles, some of those energies zapping or attacking or trying to hold on to him. I had access to that as well as the good. I had access to all. The merging brings you to the full being, and the spiritual pulling away was no doubt necessary to both of us, painful as it felt. And it was more extreme pain for me because of that desire, I suppose. I don't know, that sounds very much more intellectual than truth. What percentage of truth is in there? 75%. Yeah, that's not very high. All right, what else is there, Spirit, that we are going to tell me, that we're going to come through in this conversation? So, right, what I can do is I can just send my parents on their way. Fare thee well, and thank you for the privilege of being able to come through you, and we live together in your house, which of course I conditioned through my soul as well. I helped clean the house all the time as a child. I did. And looked after my mother and her ironing and her various things, cooking, and the other children. I did a lot of looking after, more looking after than I was looked after. But there was money towards me, of course, food and clothing, maybe not always what I wanted, but it was there. Same with the schooling. And there was some thought about me. Again, not necessarily what I wanted, but consideration and attention was directed in my way. So I thank you for that energetic input that you gave me. Yeah, I appreciate it, but I do feel rather more like we're strangers than anything else. It's like I'm shaking hands and saying thank you for that. It was most useful, gave me what I needed, and I'm grateful that you gave me an opportunity, a window to come in and be here. And I do understand that you were not on my wavelength and didn't always appreciate who or what I was. That did cause me, of course, great pain at the time as a child, where the tenderness of the spirit coming into the human body is very difficult. And now I feel much more adult that I can just say thank you and fare thee well. And yeah, much obliged for allowing me into your experience. And I hope you have gained something from it. I have formed a lot of things in my mind, a lot of my character, even some of my body structure, not only from the genetics that I picked up from both of you, but from the way you chose to do things, which led to me choosing to do things often very differently. But of course, it set me on a path. But some of your decisions really helped me, like the one with subud, or the one with the kind of food we ate. A lot of those things helped. Um, so I took up what I could, and there were some good things in there, some good lines to follow, which I then took and drew in my own outline and filled out with what I chose. But thank you for some of those structures. So yeah, I say thank you very much. And yeah, I do. My brother is quite sweet, really quite sweet. I've never got on with my next sister down. She very strange energy for me. Never liked her really. She was very sweet as a child, but I didn't like her as an adult. My little sister, I wanted to be closer, but I did some nice work with her as a baby, protecting her and soothing her. And I can still see she's inspired by me from a distance. There's no contact really, but the things she does shows me that she is inspired by the path I've taken, because I see that she's copying a lot of it. Same I saw with my brother, really. Funny, isn't it? But there we go. So thank you for allowing me into your family. I will soon be no longer in your family at all. I will be in the family of my husband and his parents. I'm not so sure about you, Papa. You need to introduce yourself more, because I have had my prejudices against some of your upbringing techniques, but I know I will learn more of the tendernesses of you soon. My mind needs to understand a little more and appreciate more. And you, Mama, you have been very sweet. I have really enjoyed your little contacts with me through dreams mostly. And I look forward to meeting your other children. They seem to be wonderful girls and full of love, and have benefited from your presence. A much closer knit family than I had anticipated. Yes. Of course, I have my beautiful family myself, which is a blessing. So it's interesting the way these things come together. So I thank you very much. All of that investigation. It's probably time to go to sleep now, although I'm not sure how sleepy I feel. And I'm intrigued by this way it worked out, this investigation, and I do believe I'll publish this, because it's quite an interesting example of self-investigatory work, how we can literally go in and talk to ourselves and find out more information. Yes, you could go to someone brilliant like Oksana and go and travel with her and have a look inside and beyond, and I can always benefit from that too, of course. But this also works to be able to speak to spirit, to one's spirit, and it is, of course, somewhat limited outlook, but it's still a valuable, useful, functioning tool. So I thank myself and I thank you for listening. And yeah, please do put your comments, because it's interesting, this kind of work. As I said to my neighbor, I had a very charming conversation with my neighbor today, and I said that my work lies in the gap, the previously occulted and hidden, very large gap between what we define currently as science and what we currently define as religion. And that in that entire area, spirituality and energy, is where I love to work. So here we go. Uncovering new tools, ancient tools, bringing them back into the psyche and using them for ourselves and for our children, our educational purposes. Thank you very much and see you soon. Bye bye.